Okay, let's start Chanukah. Let's begin with a timeline, page 84, and let's see where we are in history, because we start with Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then there's this gap that takes us into Chanukah, which happens to be beginning tomorrow night, quite conveniently for our course. So that's our topic, Chanukah. And we're going to try to figure out what this holiday is all about. It's actually more complicated and deep and a little weird than we give it credit for. It's going to be the only holiday that has no verses in Tanakh directly referring to it, unlike Purim, which occurred a couple of hundred years before the Chanukah story. We're going to see there's very little really written on this holiday, and yet it's going to have major implications for the Jewish people. Let's begin with a timeline on page 84. 353 BCE, we'll just lay the headlines down, is the building of the second temple. This is after the Galut. After the Galut of Madai and Paras. So we have two Galuts are done. This is going to be the third of the four Galuts. 319, we have the Greek area. This is BCE. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. The seats over here. Everyone's safe, okay? Good? All right. We have the beginning of the Greek era. In 199 BCE, in 199 BCE, the Antiochus III comes in to, he's the ruler and takes control. The Syrians, Greek Syrians take control of Israel. So they come into Israel and take control of the land of Israel. 175, Antiochus resigns. 168, that's our year. This all takes us to 168 BCE. And the temple is desecrated by Antiochus IV. Why he did it? Antiochus IV comes and he desecrates the temple. Why he wants to do that? Temple in Jerusalem, the capital of Jerusalem. Eventually in 165, a few years later, the Chashmonaim, the Hasmoneans, recapture the temple in Jerusalem, and that is the Chanukah, first ever Chanukah celebration, the miracle of Chanukah. That's 165 BCE. So we have the building of the temple. Eventually the Greeks take over the entire area. We'll see which Greeks specifically. Then Antiochus comes, he takes control of Israel. It's taken over by Antiochus IV. He desecrates the temple based on Mikdash in 165. A small band of Jews called the Hasmoneans are a family of Kohanim, of priests, who take over and control, rededicate the temple itself. And then, about 200 years after that, which is not for now, we'll discuss this next semester, and we'll talk about Tisha B'Av, the Romans, who really pretty much took over from the Greeks in terms of their ideology and their thoughts. They come and they destroy the temple completely. But really what this brought us was 200 years of control over the land of Israel before the Romans come and finish off what the Greeks began. Okay? Let's have a look at the word itself, Chanukah. What does the word Chanukah actually mean? And what's this got to do with our entire story? Is the question. So the Gemara asks that question, bottom of page 84, a very famous Gemara. There's not too much written. There's nothing in scriptures written on Chanukah. And this is all done on purpose, by the way. Actually, technically it would be impossible because scripture was closed at the beginning of the first temple period. Second temple period, I'm sorry. The Antigonus got closed up, so that was the end of that. But it doesn't even get too much Talmudic representation, except in the tractate of Shabbat. In the tractate of Shabbat, they're discussing the lights of Shabbat, no coincidence of its location. And while they're discussing the lights of Shabbat, the candles we light in honor of Shabbat, it stops and says, let's talk about another kind of lights. Let's talk about the Chanukah lights, which supposedly have no connection. And the Gemara asks a really weird question. The Gemara asks, my Chanukah. Probably one of those famous questions in the entire tractate. I would highlight those words. My Chanukah. What is Chanukah? What is Chanukah? It's lights, it's candles, or oil. The Gemara seems to think that it's a just question. There's nothing in Scripture talks about it. We have an entire book of Megillas Esther to tell us all about Purim, and there's an entire tractate of the Gemara all about Purim. And then comes the day of Chanukah, we're like, what happened? And why are we celebrating it? It's got to be more than just a miracle. Jewish history, my friends, was full of miracles for thousands of years. We don't have a holiday for every miracle. If we had a holiday for every miracle, we wouldn't be able to get jobs. We'd be so busy celebrating the entire time. Maybe not so bad, actually. So what is it really all about? So the Gemara asks that question and says, my Chanukah. Okay? My is Aramaic. My means what Chanukah? What is Chanukah? And the Gemara gives a very short answer to this question. Shekeshin nichnasu Yevanim. When the Greeks took over the land of Israel, and then we'll see they came into Yerushalayim and they defiled the temple. Why they pick on the temple and not start killing people, all over Israel, which they try to do as well, actually. But why did they start with that? We have to see. They came into the temple, the Heichal, Timu Kolashmanim. They defiled and they made impure all of the oils. What oils are we talking about? What shemen are we talking about? That's right, the menorah. What was inside the menorah? Oil. What type of oil? Olive oil. What type of olive oil? Shemen zayit? Yeah, there's a specific word that is used in the Torah to describe. Anyone know what it is? Shemen zayit? Zach. Very good. What does that mean? You don't know, but it sounds familiar, right? We say it together. It is olive oil, yeah.
Zach is like clean.
Right, very pure. What does that mean, clean olive oil? So what they used to do was they used to crush, like maybe when you tour Israel, they take you to these old archaeological sites. I take groups there, people are half asleep. They're actually fascinating. They have these massive mills, big round stones, you see it? They have another stone on top with this lever. Very, very massive, heavy stones. They would lower one stone on the other stone, Rechaim, and they would turn it around. They would crush things inside there. One of the things they crushed was olives. They used to load olives onto these massive stones, and they would put this other heavy stone on top. And what would happen? What would come out of the olives? Oil. And there were actually different parts of the oil. This is going to be important information for why we celebrate for 8 days. Okay, so this is important. They would crush the oil, and oil would come out. And the first oil that would come out was the purest. Why? Because it's the first pressing. And there's no sediment yet. So that was the first pressing. And then they would crush it again, they would turn it again. And the oil that would come out of that was not so pure, because some of the pulp now you're really crushing it. It's a second crushing, be a little bit more schmutzy, full of bits and pieces. And there'll be a third crushing to get every last piece out, because you want to get as most out of your olives as possible. And the third one was like really pulpy, really pulpy and not so nice. So the mitzvah is to use the first crushing from the oil, which isn't that much. And that was the shemen, zayit, zach. Shemen, zayit, zach. The purest, yeah. It was shemen, zayit, zach. The purest oil. The purest oil was used in the menorah, and it was filled up. The menorah was filled up every single day by the Kohen Gadol and lit, and stayed lit the entire time. How many branches did the menorah have? Careful, careful. 7 is absolutely correct. 7 branches. Okay? That was in the menorah. We're going to see this menorah, this is really going to be the crux of this, really represents us as a people. I know everyone walks around with Magen David, Star of David's, and with chamsas on their necklaces and their chains and all the rest of it. The menorah represents us as a people more than anything else in Judaism. Because we had a mountain in Jerusalem which was always the capital of Jerusalem. And on this mountain was a temple built by King Solomon, destroyed, rebuilt, second temple. Ezra was involved in rededicating that second temple. And we had windows in that temple, and the windows were backwards. There were backwards windows. Write this down. What does that mean, backwards windows? Why would windows be backwards? What did windows used to do?
Reflect light.
They would bring in light. They would bring in the light. They were designed in a way that light from the outside would come inside. That's what they were there for. The windows in the Beit HaMikdash were the opposite. They were inverted. They would allow the light from the inside of the temple go out. Why would you want light from inside going out? Well, it depends what light you're dealing with. The Gemara says the light from inside came from one place, the Menorah. That means you were walking around Yerushalayim. Or some say even further, because you have a mountain, you have Yerushalayim, which is high up. You drive up to Yerushalayim. Then you have the temple, you have a mountain, Mount Moriah, which is higher again. And then you have the temple on top, and then you have this menorah lit inside, and the light would come out. So you would walk around Yerushalayim or even further out. And you would see this light, and you would say, wow, we have a temple in Yerushalayim. I need to go visit. I need to be more spiritual. I need to go pray. Whatever it reminded a person to do. Not only sights, but also smells. The smell of incense would go out and incense would go out and fuse the city with the beautiful smell of the incense. Some say it traveled so far, you could even smell it in Jericho, right? And it would travel, so you had the light coming out and the sights and the smells. It was all part of this process, okay? So now we should be getting a little glimpse as to why these Greeks, a very powerful army, came and wanted to get into the temple and attack oil. Are they crazy? What are you attacking oil for? So what do we attack oil? Go attack some Jews, right? That's what people love to do. That's a nice hobby and sport. What are they doing over here? You've already invaded the country. So we're going to see the battle with the Greeks, especially early on, was an ideological battle. The Romans was less ideological. When they destroyed the second temple, their ideology wasn't so into. They were into conquest and power. The Greeks were not. The Greeks were actually a lot more into an ideology that they were trying to impose upon the Jewish people, the land of Israel. And eventually, when you don't get your way ideologically, you start attacking as well. So there's going to be two parts to Chanukah. A spiritual battle, an ideological battle, if you like, and a physical battle that goes with it. And both are going to be mentioned, and both are important. But the main battle was an ideological one. Greeks versus, I don't want to say Jews, because many Jews ended up adopting Greek culture and took the side of the Greeks. It's hard to believe, I know. But it's not so, we like it nice and simple, right? They try to attack us, we won, let's eat. It wasn't like that. It wasn't Greeks versus Jews. It was Greeks, it was Jews, and it was Greek Jews. Jews who said, no, these Greeks are doing a great thing for us. I know they came into our country and they've conquered us, but really they're good people, they just want to enlighten us. That's what they want to do. So it was more like a triangle. It wasn't like this, more like a triangle of different parts of individuals trying to get each other. Okay, so now we know that's why we're in the temple, okay? And these Greeks came in, the Yavanim. Yavan is Greece. And they defiled all the oil. What does that mean, they defiled the oil? So the oil, when it was pressed and when it was put inside a special vessel, a kli, it was then covered over. No one could touch it. It was pure. And it had a seal. It had a seal of the Kohen Gadol on it, meaning pure, can be used for the holy purposes of lighting the menorah. And we need a lot of oil, don't we? Because we have these large cups inside that each filled up, and each one lasts for one day. So there's a lot of oil that's going in there every single day. This custom goes back to the time of Aaron HaKohen, the first ever high priest, when the menorah was made by Moshe Rabbeinu in the Mishkan, in the portable tabernacle in the desert. So this menorah thing predates the land of Israel, the temple. This menorah goes all the way back to the exit from Egypt, okay, into the Midbar. Are we all clear so far? New information?
Where is it
Where's it now? That's a great question.
Where did we lose it?
So some say we did. Some say it was captured by the Romans. I was actually in Italy last summer. If you look at the Arch of Titus, chiseled, which actually from the time of the temple, destructed the second temple, you see them carrying in the menorah. Although the depiction isn't so great, but that relief put in there was a little bit out. Some say the Romans took it, taken to Rome, and some say it was kept and hidden. Some say no, they melted it down because gold it was made of pure gold, by the way, so a very precious metal. So we're not sure. There are some people who say it's still in the Vatican, down hidden somewhere, but that's unlikely. That's unlikely. A new one's probably going to have to be built with the construction of the third temple, God willing. Okay? But there are different opinions of that. It's interesting, though. Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of memes they have of Bibi Netanyahu going to visit the Pope, giving him like a menorah, right, as a gift, and saying, okay, this is what it looks like. If you see one anywhere, just please return it to us, but it's not true. Okay, Timu Kol Ben Shemana V'Heichal. Oh, by the way, the shape of the menorah, just for interest. Anyone know what the shape of the menorah was? Okay, so we're going to have two opinions over here, Rashi and Rambam. And we'll start with the Atara. I hope you get this right. You're Lubavitch, right?
It was straight.
Straight. That's what Lubavitch say, right? They go with the opinion of the Rambam that it was actually straight branches, right? A zoi, and 1, 2, 3 like that, and it comes down like that. They say it was straight branches. They go according to the Rambam. That's Rambam's opinion. Rashi disagrees,
Like this.
and Rashi goes the one, so you see that Shani Hava is Israeli, and she says, what are you talking about? It's the emblem of our country, a very good emblem, by the way. That's the Knesset. And what does that look like? Does it look like that, like every Chabad house? No, it's like 1 and 2 and 3, and it comes down like that, right? That is machloket. We're not too sure, to be honest with you. Not too sure. But that seems to be the opinion. Two opinions, Rashi and the Rambam, of the original shape.
Well, you said there is a picture in Italy.
Very good. There is a relief in Italy.
Yeah, it looks
And
like
it's straight.
And that actually is like this version over there. But then again, they'll say, well, what do they know? They saw the menorah, some guys saw it, they came in, they chiseled it, what I'm saying, till they got there. It was a number of years later, not many years, so they just depicted how they remembered it.
But the Ramban was guessing from nothing.
Not from nothing. He's looking at the verse of the
No,
Pesukim
they're
that describe the Torah, describe the menorah of the Torah, and he says, the way he looks at it, it's a laxon, it's diagonal. Everyone's like diagonal, but is it curved diagonal or straight diagonal? Well, the difference is not too much difference, but it's interesting. Anyway, okay, fine. Okay, Shegavra Malchut Beit Chashmonai, the dynasty of the Hasmonins, these were the Kohen Gadol, this is a family called the Hasmonins, the Hashmonayim. There was many of them. They Gusrom and Nitzchum, and they beat over this large Greek army. This big Greek army who'd come in to the land of Israel, overtaken the temple, removed and destroyed everything, defiled all the oils, smashed the Mizbeach. Again, why are they just destroying stones and oils? That's going to be important. Okay? And they destroyed it, came with the Hashmonai, they managed to push back this small guerrilla army, took back the land of Israel from these Greeks. V'nitzchum badku. Now look what the first thing they did. First thing they did was what? They started to look. V'lo matzu ela pach echad shel shemen. They only found one bottle of oil. So the Greeks came in, they smashed the entire place, turned to a gymnasium, they brought a pig inside, they wanted to embarrass the Jews to show that this is not the right way, they smashed the whole place up. And the Gemara says, when they won, what is the first thing these Hasmoneans do? People don't even question this. They walked in, and they're like, we got to light the menorah. So the menorah we're going to see is going to become a symbol, a very important symbol that they wanted to light and show that they had reconquered. Right? Nowadays we put up flags. There was no flag of that. There was only the menorah. Okay? They found one pach shel shemen, one little vessel of oil, shaya munach b'chamoto shel kohen gadol, which still was kept with the signature, the seal, the kashrut of the kohen gadol, says the Gemara. V'lo haya bo ela lahadlik yom echad. There was only enough oil to light the menorah for one day. Well, that's great, isn't it? That's all we need, right? What's the only problem? What's the problem?
For 7.
You need it for much longer. Why? Why? Because where are you going to get oil from? Where are you going to get oil from? He hasn't got a supply of it. He's just putting the seal on it. He's putting the aksha. Where does the oil come from? No, seriously, where does olive oil come from? Olives. Where are the olive trees? Israel. Where in Israel? On Harabayit? Do we have all these olive trees on Harabayit? No. No, we don't. That's a mountain. Not too much growing up there. Well, nowadays we see. So we had to travel in order to go and get olives and crush them again. And it can't get all the oil comes out of it. Only the first pressing of the oil. How long does that take? About 8 days. 4 days there, 4 days back. So they only had enough oil for 1 day, and they knew it was going to take a longer time period to get this oil pressed and crushed and brought back to Yerushalayim. Are we together? So we have a problem. The problem is we have enough oil for today, but what about tomorrow and the day after? We can't light it, not light. Look what happened. Nase vo nes. A miracle happened. Vedliku memenu shmoni yamim. It lasted for 8 days. Okay? Lasted for 8 days. By the way, as a side point, technically speaking, this is actually one of the biggest questions in Judaism. There's books with hundreds of answers to this question I'm about to ask you. But technically speaking, how many days of miracle were there? How many days of miracle were there, actually, technically speaking?
7.
Why 7?
It's the first last.
Because the first one for 1 day, 7. How long do we celebrate Chanukah for? 8 days. It's wrong. It should be a 7-day holiday, right?
No, because we're celebrating them taking over again, aren't we?
So there are at least 200 answers to this one question. I'm going to give you maybe 10 of them.
We can also celebrate because the fact that they found one.
It's very good. So one answer is the fact they even found one itself was a miracle. Because they trashed everything. And one little jar they didn't do. Right? Your answer is also very good, Aviva. Just the fact they even got back in and fought back. The battle itself on the first day was a miracle. So that as well could be considered to be miraculous. And many, many more answers to this question. But at least you get the question down. Why we celebrate for 8 days when really the miracle is 7? They had enough for 1 day. Another answer we're going to see is they knew they needed 8 days. So what they did was they put enough oil to last just a little bit. Just a little bit. They divided, had enough for 1 day, but they cut into 8 parts and put a little bit in. Every single night like that. So the first night lasted the entire night. But technically it shouldn't have. It should only have lasted for 1/8 of the first night. It lasted all night. And some say no, they filled it up. They lit it, next morning it was still full. So the first day was also a miracle. The fire was burning and the oil wasn't consumed. So many answers to this question. Whatever it was, the first day was as miraculous as the other 7 days. You with me? Just maybe in a different way. Yeah. Adriana.
Maybe the eighth day, the 18th day is not for it to be a miracle. Maybe Mashiach.
Look at you. Bring Mashiach into this whole thing. Okay, the number 8 is going to be very relevant for this holiday. Number 8, and it's going to be messianic. We're going to see some ideas on this as well. Very, very good. Yes, very, very good.
Wait, I'm sorry. How many answers do we have to know of why?
We're probably going to end up with about 10. You have to know a bunch.
Oh, we haven't like.
We're not going to do 200.
No,
I just gave you a few.
No, I'm saying yeah, but of the few that you gave us, you're going to give us other ones in more detail.
I
or
think
should
so.
know
No,
those?
that's pretty much it. We'll do a few more. You'll see as we go through. Okay,
I only have
so
2.
it lasts for, we saw a whole bunch, I just did about 4 or 5 I just did.
So what?
I did about 4 or 5. We did. We did. Finding the
oil,
oil, winning the battle against the Greeks itself. We said they cut the oil into 8 parts. It lasted the entire night anyway. We said there was enough oil for 1 day. It lasted for 1 day and it remained full. So even the first day was a miracle as well. We want to find out how the first day is a miracle. That's what we're trying to do as well. Okay, that's 4 good answers over there. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says there was enough, and for 1 day it lasted for 8 days. And look what it says: L'shana acheret. The next year, Kavum, they establish V'asom Yomim Tovim B'Halel V'Hoda'a. The next year, why do we have to wait 1 year? We're going to have to try to figure out. Okay? because they were celebrating that year. But we'll come to this. The following sages established these days for praise, for Hallel, and we actually say Hallel in its entirety. Hallel are special chapters of Tehillim. We say it on special occasions, Yom Tovim. Sometimes we say it for only part of the holiday. Here we say it for the entire. There's one caveat to this Hallel thing. You can only say it for miracles that happened in Israel, except Pesach, when we say Hallel as well. Although that happened outside of Israel, we were still in the Midbar leaving Mitzrayim. Having said that, that was before we actually had the land of Israel. Once you have the land of Israel, Hallel can only be celebrated for miracles that happened inside the land of Israel, of which Chanukah is definitely one of them. So in Israel, this miracle happens, okay, and it lasts for 8 days, and we do Hallel, a Hoda'ah, and we celebrate. How are we going to celebrate? How are we going to celebrate? Well, and what are we celebrating? So it seems we're celebrating a couple of things over here. One, the menorah was relit. Okay. And two, the battle. But which one of those two do we actually kind of recreate to some degree? The lights, the menorah. We don't make so much of a big deal about the war. Now, in our prayers, we mention the war, but we don't celebrate the war. And we have to think, even at this early point, why that would be. What the war is about, we haven't seen. Who's fighting, how they fighting, we're going to figure that all out. We're going to spend a few classes on this. But at least right now, why are we celebrating the oil aspect of the miracle and not the battle? Is that a fair question?
How'd you celebrate that?
Recreate the battle. We should jump around singing, "We killed them! We won the war!" Jump around. I don't know. We'll do something.
Because we're not allowed to like be happy when we.
Beautiful. Great answer. Where do we learn that out from?
Your class. I forgot where.
Okay. My class is not the answer. It's not going to work when someone asks that question in real life.
Just a second. Oh, it's at the time. That's
Beautiful. What part of Yisrael Mitzrayim?
The fact that God killed.
All the Mitzrayim. Very, very good. Yam Suf. Excellent. Create Yam Suf. The Egyptians died. The Jewish people started to celebrate. Look, the Egyptians are dead. What did Hashem say?
No.
Shh. Keep your mouth shut. Don't be too happy when your enemies fall in battle. They're still my creatures, my creations. The battle needs to happen. We don't celebrate military victories. We are happy and thankful for them. We are happy and we are thankful to them. We say Hallel and we give thanks to God. Oh, thank God we won. But we don't walk through the streets showing our wares and our, look, we won the battle. We're the great victorious Jews who won this battle. Keep your mouth shut. People were hurt and killed. We don't celebrate that. So that aspect we cannot celebrate. What we can celebrate, however, is another miracle which is as miraculous. Remember, they're both a miracle. In fact, a small band of Jews, right, who weren't even like warriors, right? They were like Torah scholars. Able, they were Kohanim. They're not battlers. They're working the Beit HaMikdash. The fact they were able to push off this army is one great miracle. There's another miracle of the lights. That's in for 8 days. The one we're going to really recall and make to represent both miracles are the lights. Okay, are we clear on this? We don't celebrate the downfall of our enemies. Okay? Who are these Greeks? Who were these Greeks and why was it so bad? And did it start this bad? And the answer is, actually, it didn't start this bad. When the Greeks arrived under the leadership of Alexander the Great, it really was a very, very good time for the Jewish people. Alexander the Great came to Israel. He was a great conqueror. He died at a very young age. He was a brilliant military strategist in his 20s and early 30s. I think he died at the age of 32. What he did in his years is just like unbelievable. He was a genius, a military genius, and very, very learned. The Gemara tells us that he came and ventured into Israel. Okay? While in Israel, he wanted to take control. We know there was a great person called Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon the high priest. and he heard that Alexander the Great had entered the country. There were also a group called the Sadducees, the Sadducees. These were Jews who did not like the conventional Pharisees, the rabbis of the time. And they wanted to go and report to Alexander the Great that the Jewish people were rebelling, says the Gemara. And so it was nighttime. And the Greeks under Alexander the Great were encamped in a large encampment in Israel. And at nighttime, Shimon HaTzadik dressed up into his full garments. And he came from one side at nighttime, and there were Jews with him who were holding torches. And from the other side were coming the Sadducees, the Sadducees, to report on the Jews. So it's Jews, Greeks. This is what the Gemara says. They got closer and closer and closer. And Alexander the Great said, what's going on over here? And the Sadducees came and they said, these Jews over here, they have control. They're not going to let you win. They're going to cause you trouble. Wipe them out. And it was hard to believe the one group of Jews can go against the land of Israel, Yerushalayim, and want to kill other Jews. It's hard to believe. But that's what happened. Comes Alexander the Great, and he sees this man called Shimon HaTzadik, who he never met before. And he looks at him, and we're told that he actually sees him and bows down to him, shows him great respect. And everyone's freaking out. Why are you giving this old rabbi? And he says, I'll tell you why. You see, every time I go to battle, the night before I go to battle, I see a face in my dreams. I see a face in my dreams. And I've always wondered who that face was. And I know when I see that face, I'm going to win my battle. I know I'm going to do very, very well. The face I see is this man's face, Shimon HaTzadik. And they get off, and they conversed, and Shimon HaTzadik said, listen, we know you're here, you're a great conqueror, but please let us stay here and do what we need to do and worship. And Alexander the Great agreed to it. He then routed all the Sadducees and pushed them away, and the Jewish people were able to live for a little bit under the rule of Alexander the Great, and it was actually a good time. It was actually so good that there was a decree made that any Jewish baby boy that was born for 1 year, I believe, will be called Alexander. And to this day, you see a lot of Jewish boys named Alexander, right? The Russian community, even I have a cousin called Alexander. They say with that name, it's actually been passed down all the way back to that original time of the Second Temple, when Alexander the Great entered into the scene of Jewish history.
It was a decree made by who?
The rabbis made a decree in thanks to Alexander the Great. Interesting. Okay. As we saw, however, Alexander the Great died at a very young age. He was taken over by Antiochus, the third and then the fourth. And we'll see that 4 groups took over his rulership. Leadership was taken over by 4 individuals who were not good people. And the ones who were in charge of Israel were very, very bad. Let's have a look at the Rambam in the Laws of Chanukah, chapter 3, verse 1, and he's going to explain a little bit some more of the history to flesh this out. He says, during the times of the Second Temple, the Greeks ruled over the Jewish people. They started to institute decrees against them and attempt to destroy their religion. Okay? We're on page 85. They did not allow the Jews to study Torah or perform mitzvot. They took their money and their daughters. They would capture women and make them into their wives or slaves. Sometimes, the night before they got married, they would take them and made a decree that the women would be raped the night before their marriage. Right? This was all to demoralize and destroy the spirit of the Jewish people. Okay? It's actually very difficult to get married in secret. They took the money, their daughters entered and defiled the temple, where they violated its purity, says the Rambam. The Greeks subjected the Jews to great hardships and pressured them immensely until Elokei Avoteinu Hoshia Miyadam Vetzilam, until the God of their fathers had pity on them and saved them. So the Rambam's like, this is miraculous. It's not like other military battles, right? We see people coming in. This was all miraculous, and Hashem did the Jewish people a great favor at that time in order to save them. Who were these Greeks, and where exactly did they come from? So we have to go back a little bit, actually a couple of thousand years, to be fair, to see that the Greeks and Greek ideology and thought and process isn't bad. It's not bad. It's actually very helpful and can give us a lot. Where do we get this from? Because the Greeks, we're told, come from one of the sons of Noah. Now, Noah had 3 sons, and their names were Shem, Ham, Yafet. Shem, Ham, Yafet. The Jewish people come from Shem, and the Greeks come from Yafet. From Yafet. Let's have a look inside the Torah, because even the name itself is going to reveal something to us about the Greeks and what they actually wanted. There were boys that came out from the teva, from the ark. Cham v'Yafet, Shem v'Cham v'Yafet, v'Cham Avi Canaan. We see that Cham became the father of Canaan, the Canaanite nations who took over the land of Israel, before the Jewish people entered into it. Shlasha el b'nei Noach u'Mala nefsam kol haaretz. They ended up populating the entire world. V'chal Noach ish adama v'yitakerem, made a kerem. V'yesh min hayayin. Remember this whole story? Noach made a kerem. He made a vinery, took the vines, he made wine, he got drunk. Okay, and he disgraced himself in his tent. Remember the story from Torah? Okay, it's all from Genesis chapter 9. The Yar Cham Avi Canaan, Cham the father of Canaan saw his father's, at Ervat Aviv, his father's nakedness, V'yagev l'shnei achav b'chutz, and he told his 2 brothers outside. What did they do? V'yikach Shem v'Yefet, it's similar. Shem v'Yefet were together, Cham was separate. Cham defiled his father. How he defiled him is different opinions, but he defiled his father. There's something disgusting to him. However, Shem and Yefet joined forces, and they said, wow, our father's got drunk. It's been a very, very difficult year with the whole teva. And they said, let's cover his nakedness, right, and his drunkenness. And what they did was they took clothing, took a large cloak, put it over their shoulders, and they walked backwards. The Torah is telling us information. It's very important information the Torah is telling us. They walked backwards, and don't have to look at their father and embarrass him. And they covered over their father's nakedness, right? They walked him backwards. They didn't see their father's nakedness. Noach wakes up from his drunken slumber, and he knew what his youngest son Cham had actually done to him. And he cursed Canaan for what he did to him. And he said, you're going to be an Eved Avadim, you're going to be a slave the rest of your life. Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem, v'Canaan Aved Lamo. Yefet, so Shem gets blessed for doing this act. V'Yefet Elokim liyafet v'yishkan ba'olei Shem v'yi Canaan Eved Lamo. He says, God is going to expand Yefet. He's going to dwell in the tents of Shem. So the descendants of Yefet are going to dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan's going to work for them. Now it gets interesting. What is all this about? So Yafet is related to the word Yafeh, beauty. Yefet is Yafeh. And from Yefet, from this guy Yefet, who we're told did a very good thing. He honored his father. Remember that? And he actually collaborated with Shem, his brother, not to embarrass his father at that time. And he was blessed with great beauty in the tents. What are the tents referring to over here? The tents of learning. Tents in Torah represents places to live. But we also know that Yaakov Yoshev Ohalim sat in his tent, and what did he do there? He studied for many, many years. So these people Yefet are going to be very beautiful. They're going to beautify the world, and they're going to give great learning to the entire world as well. Great knowledge, information, and beauty. That's what the descendants of Yefet are going to do. Turn over the page. B'nei Yefet, Gemar, Umago, Gomadai, V'Yavan, V'Tav, L'Meshach, V'Tiros. One of the descendants is Yavan, Greece. One of them is Yavan, Greece. Is one of the descendants of Yefet. So we see that Yefet, and now in this case we're going to narrow this down to Yavan, Greece, are going to be people who bring knowledge to the world and great beauty to the world. They have a wonderful opportunity to do amazing things in the world, of which they did. Most knowledge we have. Everything around us, knowledge of buildings, of mathematics, structures, democracy, all the things that have given a wonderful amount of greatness to the world comes from Greek thought and Greek life. Okay? The entire Western world is really formed in everything, architecture, knowledge, from these Greeks. Says the Gemara, it's so beautiful, these Greeks, and they live in the tents of shame, remember? Tents of knowledge, but they are together with Shem. Remember that Shem and his brother Yefet were together. Says the Gemara, a weird law, an unbelievable halacha. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, Af b'sfar merotiu shiktavu ela Yevanit. The only language besides Hebrew, the one can write the Torah, the prophets and the writings, is Greek. Greek was such a beautiful and descriptive language. The rabbis say, you know what? Even the Torah somehow is going to be enhanced by understanding it in Greek. My time, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, why would he say this? And he says, well, we have a verse. The verse told us that Greece is beautiful. Amakra, Yefet Elokim liyafet, v'ishkabel Shem. They get to be beautiful, and we're going to make Yefet wide, and we're going to dwell in the tent of Shem. That was Genesis chapter 9:27. Okay? They get to live in these tents. Okay? And read, the Greeks were the first culture to actually request a translation of the Torah into their own language. Now, their purposes weren't spiritual. Their purposes were knowledge-based. We want to know, we understand, we want to have Bible study. And we can understand your Hebrew, so give it to us in Greek so we can all study it. Give us your Torah and help us understand. Now, initially that wasn't such a great request because we want the Torah to be studied in its original language. But through that, we start to have a whole new understanding. The entire world begins to understand the Torah, the Bible, in their language. This Greek translation occurred in Egypt under the Greek ruler Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BCE. And the Gemara Megillah tells us about it. And says, Maseh B'Talmi, there was King Talmi HaMelech, and he gathered 72 elders, 72 great scholars. He put them to 72 chambers, 72 separate rooms, each one a separate one, without revealing to them why they were pulled into this room. And he said, write from the Torah, Moshe, your teacher. Okay. And there was a miracle. They all translated the Torah exactly the same into Greek. And from that point on, the Torah, the Bible, started to be spread. There's pros to that, and there's cons to that. But the wisdom starts to spread. Okay? So through Greece, through Greek knowledge and understanding, we see the Torah starts to be spread, and knowledge, all knowledge, but especially even Jewish knowledge, starts to move forward. Look at the Maharal on page 87. What are they about, the Greeks? Do they want to kill people? No, that's not them. They aren't this warrior tribe that wants to destroy everyone. They want to educate. They want to inform. Right? They want to sit in the tents and study and study mathematics and geography and history and every other great knowledge that's out there that we Jews love and we want to see in the world. Kol inyan ha-malchut zeh shayu mevakshim ha-chachma. They wanted wisdom. Right? Great Greek thinkers, Aristotle and Plato. The Rambam says Aristotle had unbelievable knowledge. Right? He was almost the level of a prophet in terms of the knowledge that this man had. Right? Aristotelian thought, you study any university, you study it, and most of it, not all of it, he had some weird ideas as well, was appreciated. Spiritually, however, we're going to see, we had problems. There were other problems that came hand in hand with this knowledge. How they appreciated it, the relevance in a person's life was one problem, my friends. How they treat other people is also a problem. Okay. That was going to be a problem. You see, they started to make a separation between knowledge and actions. And we Jews try to put knowledge and actions together. You know something, and you act a nice way towards other people, and you treat people well. They brought into an idea that you could be extremely brilliant, extremely smart, and act disgustingly. We liked the knowledge, but we didn't like what they were doing in terms of the behavior. Okay. Says the Menorah, "Lefikach ha'umah hazot," this nation, bakshu sheiktavu lahem chachamim haTorah yevadit. They wanted to see the Torah in Greek. Commercial first Megillah, the Gemara Megillah just told we looked at. Okay. And this is a proof that they wanted, more than anything else, initially, to just have information. We have this amazing book, which you Jews claim comes from God. We don't care about that. We don't admit to that. But there's a lot of people out there who are influenced by this book, so we want it. Give it to us. Let us enjoy it as well. Okay? Which is a good thing, but it comes with problems because once you have this information out there, it starts to get diluted to some degree. However, in the end, the Greek language is good. Okay? And that's what the Chachamim say. Therefore, the Greeks have Yefet is Yafeh, beauty. And the Greek language, which is the beauty of the Greeks, is a tool that we are able to access something else in the world, even Torah and mitzvot. Okay? Let's have a look at that story I mentioned before on page 88. Just see it inside.
So how do we take the Greek mythology? Like, what do we think about that?
We see it as reminiscent of Avodah Zarah, of their belief that
But we
they
think
didn't
they're
believe in.
smart.
There's wisdom, there's information. Problem is, when you start to act out on it, that was more of a problem for us. Okay? We had no problems with what they had. The idea of many gods, that people being better than gods, remember that? That's most of Greek mythology we're going to see, right? How they saw Zeus and what their role was, right? The many, many gods. And actually, they put gods down. They put humans above gods, right? Their gods would come down, they wouldn't just sit on, Mount Olympus. They would come down, they would drink with people, they would be intimate with people. It's a whole different understanding. It was all about the beauty, and the chokhmah of people was better than anything else. And we don't put ourselves in this thing. We put God in the middle. That was one of the big, big problems that we had. I'm condensing it with the whole Greek ideology of the world.
You notice that they were the first ones to ask for the translation in Greek. They still pray, partially pray in Greek.
Yeah.
I was in Greece this summer and went to a shul in Athens, and in the middle of the thing, it was very confusing. In the middle of Kabbalah Shabbat, it was very confusing, and then after my dad asked, one of the people, whatever, and they were like, yeah, some of our prayers are in Greek.
It's not so weird. We still have that in other countries. We have parts of the prayers in English as well sometimes. We'll read certain parts of it as well. The Greeks nowadays really don't have any relation to the Greeks back then. That's not really, there's been too many changes over the past 2,000 years. We're not really seeing too much connection there anymore. Okay? The Persians don't have any connection. The Greeks, first, exactly. But a lot of them are Sephardic. Actually, the Greeks were one of the only Sephardic communities that were actually hurt during the Holocaust. Right? The Greeks of Salonika. But I don't think they go back this far. I think too much has happened.
In Greek, so
It could be. It could be. Okay, let's have the Gemara, page 88. It says on the 25th of Tevet is the day of Har Grizim, on which no mourning is permitted. Right? It's a good day. What happens? On this day, the Samaritans demanded the house of our God from Alexander the Macedonian in order to destroy it, and he gave it to them. People came and informed Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon the righteous. What did he do? He put on his priestly garments, remember this? Robed himself in priestly garments, right? And some of the noblemen of Israel went with him, carrying fiery torches in their hands. They walked all night, some one side, some the other, until the dawn rose. When the dawn arose, Alexander asked the Samaritans, who are these people? These were bad Samaritans. They answered, the Jews who rebelled against you. So these Jews start to, as he reached Antipatris, the sun rose, and they met. Alexander saw Shimon the righteous. He descended from his carriage and bowed down before him. They said to him, a great king like yourself, you'll bow down to this Jew? He answered, it is his image that leads me to victory in my battles. He said to them, what have you come for? They said, is it possible that idol worship would mislead you to destroy the house wherein prayers are said for you in your kingdom? He said, who are these people? He said, the Samaritans. They want to destroy this temple, and he allowed them to be pushed away, and the Jewish people were able to vanquish these Samaritans. And because of that event, this initial entry of Alexander the Great into the land of Israel in Jerusalem was not a bad thing initially for the Jewish people. It was actually very, very, very good. Okay? Says Rabbi Sam Raphael Hirsch, page 89, and we'll finish with this, because we have a lot more to do. It was shown to Alexander the Great, immediately with his first contact with Israel, that even though he had been sent to bring all the countries of the East under his wings, which he did, he conquered a vast amount of territory of the culture of Europe. Despite this, there dazzled and illuminated his eyes, even in the Near East, on the very shores of the Mediterranean, a culture that was greater and more elevated than his. He appreciated the amazing wisdom that came with these people. Against his will did Yefet bow to Shem, and the great Greek conqueror was no more than a scout who captured and prepared the ground for the spirit of Israel. So he's saying that all this came together for Alexander the Great, and it wasn't coincidence that he came and conquered, and that we were able eventually to vanquish these people. So what we have found over here, and what we've just entered, is the third exile of the Jewish people. There are 4 exiles, Daled Galuts, for the Jewish people. The first of the 4 was the Babylonian exile, Bavel. That was the destruction of the first temple from Nebuchadnezzar. Right? That's the Babylonian exile. Then we have the Madai and Paras. That's the destruction of the second temple and the 70 years in between. Actually 53 years and then 70 years. Okay? That's the Persian, that's the whole Megillah, that's the whole Purim story is over here. Now we're in the third exile of Yavan. Now in the third, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. The Greek exile over here. Okay, the Greek exile, which is the whole Chanukah story. What's wild about this exile is that it is unique among all the 4. The last one's going to be Edom, right? The Roman Christian one, if you will. Okay? That's going to be the exile of Edom, of Esav. What's unusual about this, out of all 4, which is a key component, is that we call it a galut, an exile. Where are the Jewish people when this happens? In Israel. Nachon? How can it be an exile? How can it be an exile? Doesn't exile mean that people are kicked out of their homes, out of their cities, out of their country? Like happened over here in Bavel, and this one happened outside of Israel, and Edom, the Romans are going to come, they're going to kick the Jewish people, destroy the second temple, and kick us out. How could this be an exile? So we'll see galut. Galut, exactly. Galut does not just mean a physical exile of the Jewish people from the land of Israel. You can be in the land of Israel. You could be residing in your house in Israel, in Yerushalayim, in the Beit HaMikdash, and you're still in a state of spiritual exile, that Hashem's Shekhinah has been removed from the Jewish people. Are we clear on this? Exile, we learn from the Greeks, and today as well. We're still in Galut, although we have one of the greatest gifts, the land of Israel, and Yerushalayim. And this is still considered exile. Hashem's Shekhinah is exile from the Jewish people. It's a spiritual exile. That's what depicts this, and that's why Yavan, Greek exile, though we're still in Israel, and we weren't even kicked out of Israel. Okay, we were kicked out of the temple. So there was some movement, but it's a spiritual exile, more so than the others.
Who was responsible for the second exile?
That was Nebuchadnezzar, destroys the first temple, removes the Jewish people, and then we're in Madai and eventually Paras, and that's on Megillah, we're under Achashverosh. Remember? Outside, Paras and Madai.
Thank you so much.
Okay? Okay, the next piece is going to take me a little bit longer to get through. So I want to save it to next class. Okay? So we'll pick this up, God willing, on Wednesday, which happens to be the first day of Chanukah.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
Not Tuesday?
Tuesday night, Wednesday day.